And now we are going to move on to the show and tell portion of our program. Thomas Wittenberg from HP, are you there, sir?
I am here.
Excellent. With your Barry White voice, luckily for all of us. So Tom Wittenberg is the large format industry relations and event manager for North America at HP. Tom and I go way back. And one of my favorite things to do at trade shows was to make an appointment to see Tom and go through the booth with Tom so he could tell me about all the new samples that they were making and how they were making them. And the reason why I love to do it is because Tom was really excited about what he was making. And he was, they were kind of inventing things. I remember the first time you showed me the door, you were so excited about your door, printing on that. So I'm really happy to have you here and HP as a Project Peacock partner. Thank you so much, Tom. Take it away.
Thank you very much. And welcome to everybody out there that is watching. I appreciate you spending the time with us. As Deborah said, I'm the HP Industry Relations and Events Manager in North America for large format. And I've been with the company 9 years. I spent probably the previous 20 years running different companies in the business. So I've learned an awful lot. And my overall printing experience goes back 36 years. For today, I want to talk about some POS key trends that we're starting to see emerge, some statistics, and I want to share an idea to help improve efficiency at the retail and at the brand level. So we'll get into that in a minute, but first I want to start off with the trends. The information I'm going to share is from a gentleman named Steve Lister. He works for Popeye. Many of you, I'm sure, have heard of the organization. And he is head of sustainability for them. And he is also a strategist who is helping brands and retailers reinvent their in-store experiences and also help them with their strategic marketing. So there are really three key takeaways. And I think we've heard some already, either through Vicky or Elaine, but there are three key elements here that I think everybody needs to know. Number one, post-COVID, boring retail is dead. We're going to start to see, as we talked, or as you heard earlier, about more experiences, different things in the market. There have been pieces and parts of these all along, but now they're going to become much, much more prominent. However, sustainable retail is flourishing, and it's all about the experience. And I'll say both millennials and Gen Zers, who are now really becoming a very large part of the consumer market, it's the experience. That's everything for them. So let me give you a couple examples. There's a retail chain out there, and I may botch the name. I think it's Bonobos, or it could be Bonobos. I'm not sure which. But anyway, what they are doing, they've embarked on a very different type of retail model. So instead of going into the store and you take a pair of pants off the shelf and you go and buy it, theirs is completely different. You actually make an appointment to go in. They spend an hour with you. They measure you, they put all of your measurements into their computer system, and then they start to talk to you about what you would really look good in, which of the clothes, and they take you around and they ask you, what do you like? What they found as a result of this is that their abandoned cart rate has gone almost to zero, because people know exactly what they want, and because their measurements are already in the e-commerce system, it makes it very easy for them to get the right size every time. Another experience, and one of my companies that I ran was personally, we were actually involved in this. It was the Nike factory stores, and Nike wanted to do something really interesting that was different with the pricing. And so what we did was we worked with them and we came up with a way to embed sales pricing in the wallpaper. You couldn't see it, but as soon as you put on 3D glasses, you could see the sales price for each set of shoes popping up out of the wall. So it's that real personalized experience. And then it's also having graphics that you can aspire to, where you look and you say, wow, I want to look like that. So, it's a whole myriad of different things. Another statistic, this one it's pretty interesting. 45% of Gen Z consumers have stopped purchasing certain brands because of ethical or sustainability concerns. It's not that they've stopped buying from all brands, but what it means is they've stopped buying from brands and they've singled the ones out that specifically don't mirror their ideals or share their values. So this is becoming a very influential part of the retail scene. Now, going on a little bit further, this to me was very interesting. It's the World Federation of Advertisers, and they reached out to all of their members, and they asked, two questions. There are two of the questions in this survey, which were, which of the following are currently part of your role, and which will be more important in 5 years' time? And as you can see, sustainability as part of the role today is way down at the bottom. Second from the bottom, 37% of the respondents. Which will be more important in 5 years' time, though? Number one, sustainability. And it was 80% of the respondents said that will be important to them within the next 5 years. So sustainability is starting to really show up more and more as we go along. And here's a point here that goes to what I'm saying. The major brands, and here in this case we've got P&G, Amazon, Coca-Cola, and Unilever, are actually setting sustainability goals and demands, whether it is recyclability, reusable, recycled content. It doesn't matter. It's in their packaging, and it's going to start making its way into signage. So that's important to know. Second thing, and I did not know about extended producer responsibility until much earlier this year. But this is one area that we're looking into as HP. I know the industry is. And what EPR, it's an environmental protection strategy aimed at decreasing total environmental impact from a product and its packaging by ensuring that the producers, which would be the PSPs in the industry, the producers of the product take responsibility for the entire life cycle of their products, especially in the take back, recycling, and final disposal. What we have seen or heard is that there are a number of states, I believe New York is one, Ohio is one, Illinois is one, and I think some of the West Coast states are looking to employ a tax on companies based on, and that tax is going to be based on the material that you're using. So if you're using, say, a vinyl product, you're going to be taxed at a higher rate than if you're using, say, recycled content paper. The whole purpose there is to drive your tax down, and in doing so, you move more into the recycled content materials. Okay, so not a lot is known. This is very vague right now, but it's an area, from a POP, POS standpoint, keep an eye on it. Now on to some of the stores and some of the things that they have actually done. In the case of Lush, and I know they are here in the United States, what they've done is they've actually taken old flower pots, plastic flower pots, and recycled those and made them into plastic signage for their stores. Marks and Spencer, they used to have, I think, plastic signage in their grocery area. And what they've done is they've actually replaced all of that with fiber content material. So the lemons and limes, for example, is all fiber where it used to be all plastic. This one I like. It's kind of cool. It's got, the newspaper stacks that are actually acting as a display stand. And you've got a myriad of other, wood, natural wood, recycled content boxes, things like that in the back. And that's to draw you in because it is so unique. This one is my favorite. It's Aesop. They're in Melbourne, Australia. And this is a honeycomb board that they have cut in different shapes, sizes to give you this fluid motion. I absolutely love this. I think it's one of the best things I've seen in a long time for a store. And then this is Nike. And I'll mention Nike several times. I know the others have mentioned Nike too. They are way out ahead of the curve. I know Nike was a big customer of mine several years ago, and they were constantly on the sustainability train. One of the things that they required of all of their suppliers was that you have the Sustainable Green Partnership certification. And if you don't have that, it's something to look into because there's only 55, 60 printing companies in the United States that have actually gone through with that. And it is a differentiator when you're in the market. And I think it will become even more of a differentiator as we go forward in time. And then finally, some Nike Grind, which is made from the scraps of the footwear manufacturing process. So a lot of different things are starting to show up in these stores. And like I say, needless to say, sustainability is going to be playing a much larger role for brands and retailers going forward. And here are the recycled content. Actually, I learned something really kind of interesting from Steve's presentation on this. And you'll see over there I think it's like a Pringles, it looks like, where it says this unit is 100% recyclable. There's two reasons that that's actually printed on there. One is to let the consumer know, hey, we're doing our part. And the second is to actually let the store employees know how they are to dispose of it, whether they're supposed to recycle it, or does it end up in the trash masher in the back. So now I want to get into some statistics, and this is where I want to introduce, a concept that at my former employer, we actually went and were well down the road to implementing. When I talk about compliance, I got the question, what does it mean by compliance? Well, when you're ordering signage, your retail customer or the brand will actually designate, a certain, I'll say a certain POP or POS signage and the number that are to be installed in the given stores. And that number, as we heard from Elaine, may also vary by store. So the expectation here is that all of that signage, every bit of it going to the store is going to be installed. And if it's all installed, it's at 100% compliance. So that's what I'm talking about with compliance. But out of these different statistics here, 62% of the suppliers find it difficult to ensure merchandising initiatives are executed at the store level. So as a PSP, I have no idea, unless I'm actually involved in the installation, whether that's being 100% complied with at the store level. But here's the kicker. Only 40% of displays are executed compliantly as planned, and 53% of the planned displays are not executed at all. So that's a fairly significant number. But when they are executed, in promotions, stores, when they do it at 100%, they saw 193% incremental sales lift. That's a big amount. And what we did several years back, and at the time it was not as, I'll say, not inexpensive, but it's a lot less expensive than it was back 10 years ago. We were proposing putting RFID chips on every piece of signage that was going out to, whether it was Nike, Adidas, Columbia Sportswear, it didn't matter. And then we would propose to them going in and saying to a retailer or a brand, look, I can help you get more sales by ensuring that you have compliance. And what that would require was a very, very quick audit of the store, where you went in with the RFID reader, you walk through the store, and it would tell you what was there and what was missing. So it was a real easy way to turn and say, this number of stores are compliant, these are not compliant. If you can bring them up to compliance, you're going to see a lift in your sales. So we had some really good support on that from our major accounts. Moving on, the importance of sign and display. So 76% of consumers enter a store based on signage. Almost 7 in 10 purchase a product or service because of the signage. 75% have told someone about a store based simply on its signage. 2 out of 3 consumers believe a store's signage reflects the quality of its products and services. And that's an important one. I learned that over time. And poor signage, whether it's misspelling, it's poorly made, it looks garbage, that deters people, 52% of consumers, from entering a store. So what I want to do is I'm going to go through right now and show you some examples of really unique, I shouldn't say unique, but really impressive stores that really did well for the different brands. And then I'm going to show you some bad signage, and I've got a story in there I got to tell too. So this was a Nike factory store from a number of years ago with Tim Tebow. It was one of those that, and this is the beauty of large format. You can make these tremendous graphics and just provide that wow effect. And in this case too, there was some 3D that was added in just to bring some depth and dimension and a little bit of life to the whole image. This one, I know my former employer, we did that, and I had walked into the warehouse and was like, what are just hundreds of basketballs doing in here? And we had designed, our designer had designed something for Nike that had all of these hanging basketballs and made it really, really different, but it was a very unique experience when you walked by the store. And then finally, window graphics. Window graphics can do so much to really draw somebody in. In this case, it was very vibrant. And over on the left there was a giant Nike logo made out of corrugated. Now I'm going to move on to some bad stuff. This is when your dental banner features an execution. I don't know that I'd be going to that dentist if that banner was hanging up there. This is one of my favorites. Window signs made here. How many times as a PSP have you looked at that, or have you gone in and you're talking about first surface, second surface, reverse print? It gets all messed up. I know exactly the situation. Did every Adidas store with the Adidas logo made backwards. Okay, that was not pretty, but I understand it. But again, it goes to, would you buy something from somebody whose sign looks like that? Oops, skip that one. But this is one of my favorites. Buy 3 for the price of 3. Special deal. And finally, some of you may recognize this if you've been around retail long enough. Some of you may not. But this was used by Patagonia, and it was in 1995, I believe. And it caused a real stir because the baby was being thrown, and it's this pretty sizable gap in the rocks. A lot of tension came from that. My business got a lot of attention from Patagonia because of what we did. We were to print a campaign for the Japanese market. It was all printed in Japanese, and it was about warm up your baby. We got from an outside translation agency, we got all of the stuff that we were to print, all the graphics. We printed the graphics. We shipped them off to Japan. Patagonia went nuts. I mean, they absolutely went nuts. They were furious because we had printed Burn Your Baby. So, you know, needless to say, there was a long discussion about that. Unfortunately, it was not our fault, but it just goes to show you bad signage can have a significant impact. It can even have a significant impact on your business. Fortunately, we were able to save the account. But anyway, that's my presentation. Deb, back to you.
Thanks. So first of all, I've been laughing for the last 5 minutes, so thank you very much for that. We do have a question.
Yeah.
And it is from Phyllis, and Phyllis wants to know about the compliance. Do you know if it was just like the employees who weren't doing what they were supposed to do, or was it like management not thinking that they needed to know everything? I mean, like, were they just confused about what they were supposed to do? Also, they probably needed a lane system, by the way.
You know, from experience, it could be a number of things. You know, we know that there are some stores that say, I don't like it. I don't like the way it looks. Forget it. Into the back room. It may be that the store has changed. You know, there were times that we would make stuff and the brand or the retailer didn't know that the whole store had been rearranged. And so, you know, you sent them stuff and they didn't need it. They may see that another store in town's got something better that they like, and I'll go get, you know, I'll just call up and say I didn't get mine, and it'll be sent out. So there's a myriad of reasons that can occur. You know, it's, you know, one thing, you know, we just learned over time what it was, you know, in investigating.
I mean, but that's not good for printers, because that goes back to, you know, somebody comes around and says, okay, let's talk about, you know, ordering those signs again for last year. And someone's like, what signs? We've never hung them up, you know, like,
Right.
we don't need them, you know, so I don't like that. So how do you ensure that people are compliant?
Yeah, that's
Just
a
the
very
art.
good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. And that was something that was very difficult to do without a lengthy going out and visiting each and every store and taking out here's the list of stuff I sent and is it there, and walking around to each one. That's why the RFID solution was so easy. You walked in, you walked around, and bingo.
Right.
You
Wait,
know.
Elaine, if you're still in Zoom, can you unmute, can you jump in on this for a second? Because is there a way to tell if all the signs that you're hanging are being hung? There you are.
Yeah, no, there's no way to tell, like, from what would happen is you would be on site, to Tom's point. You would click the web, you know, you could send an email that says to not compliant and hang this was missing, whatever. So you could track it, but you wouldn't be able to know about it in advance. Now they do a lot of times with our customers, they do these, they call them pride rides or executive rides. And they'll go around and they make sure that everything's where it needs to be whenever the big wigs come through, but no, not in advance. I mean, to Tom's point, I think, you know, some of it is, it's a daunting task to hang some of that stuff. And, you know, and I think people just get a little complacent about it. I mean, there's times when they'll say they didn't get, their box has been sitting in the back room for 6 days, but they call and say they never got it. So, I mean, I totally, same wavelength right there, but
yeah.
Okay.
I know we didn't get it, and then you're sending out another one.
yes.
And, you know, and then it makes you look bad, and it just compounds itself.
It's not a good situation. I mean, everybody's supposed to do what they're supposed to do, and then it works. Well, thank you guys so much. Sorry, Elaine, I ambushed you.
That's all right.
I'm glad you were still there. Stay on call.